Number 1. The Germans once instilled fear in the entire world. When mentioning Germany, the first thing that likely comes to mind is the two world wars, in which the country played a pivotal role as an aggressor. In both conflicts, Germany was truly a menace that every nation feared to confront. When World War I broke out in 1914, you may have heard that it was a war between the three allied nations of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy against the rest of Europe. However, in reality, Italy refused to participate from the very beginning. In fact, just 9 months later, they turned their back and joined the Allies to fight against their former ally. As for Austria-Hungary, within just over a year, its army was nearly disbanded, forcing Germany to bear the entire burden of defense. For much of the war, Germany faced the three largest empires on the continent: Britain, France, and Russia, almost entirely alone. Surprisingly, they did not appear to be at a disadvantage. The tide of the war only truly turned when the United States decided to intervene. With over 2 million soldiers, a massive supply of weapons, food, and enormous financial resources sent to Europe, the U.S. successfully compelled the German army to surrender. It seemed that after this defeat, Germany would never recover. But less than 2 decades later, they were reborn once again. Under Hitler, the Nazi war machine instilled fear across the globe, deterring direct confrontation. The Soviet Union chose to proactively sign a non-aggression pact. Britain and France, although declaring war after Germany invaded Poland, did nothing for the next 8 months. In just 5 weeks, the Germans crushed the French army, which was ranked 4th in the world at the time. In less than 3 years, 2/3 of Europe was under Hitler's control. This time, their ally Japan made the ill-fated decision to force the United States into the conflict. The outcome is well known. Without the intervention of the US and the Soviet Union, it is very likely that today, while traveling across Europe, you would find that the people here all speak German. The scars of war still linger on German soil. Estimates suggest that about 10 to 15% of the bombs dropped by the British and Americans on Germany during the war did not detonate. Each year, the country inspects and discovers over 2,000 tons of unexploded bombs. In September 2017, 60,000 residents in the city of Frankfurt were evacuated after a 1.4-ton bomb was discovered, marking the largest civilian evacuation in Germany since the war. If you were a leader at that time, would you dare to confront the Germans? Please leave a comment with a 1 if you would, or a 2 if you wouldn't. Number 2. The paradox of loving animals while destroying humanity. Can you believe that a brutal fascist regime in the past was actually very fond of animals? Right after coming to power in 1933, the Nazi regime enacted a series of laws to prevent all forms of animal cruelty. The education system emphasized animal rights, prohibiting violence and hunting of wild species. Chancellor Hitler was also known to be a vegetarian, expressing disgust at animal cruelty, and particularly doting on his pet dog, Blondie. In stark contrast, the actions of this man with the funny mustache towards his own kind were undoubtedly criminal. Hitler was the mastermind behind the genocide of the Jewish people known as the Holocaust, which claimed around 6 million victims. Additionally, over 5 million others lost their lives, including homosexuals, disabled individuals, and anyone he deemed inferior or hostile to the regime. Hitler imposed a ban on experiments on animals, replacing them with humans. In the final stages of the war, the Nazi regime faced a severe manpower shortage. In this context, German military leaders decided to enhance the physical fitness and endurance of the remaining soldiers to counterattack the Allied forces. A group of researchers was mobilized to develop a drug named D9, which was permitted to be tested directly on prisoners. The results were astonishing. Those who used this drug could march continuously for distances of up to 90 kilometers without rest, while carrying a backpack weighing around 20 kilograms. Metrics for strength, endurance, reflexes, speed, and recovery were pushed to extreme limits compared to the normal human condition. Sounds a lot like the heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, doesn't it? After successful trials, the Nazis attempted to mass-produce D9 for the military. However, the war ended before that could happen. Most documents regarding D9 were destroyed by Hitler, so the number of victims of the project remains a mystery. Nevertheless, many historians believe that D9 claimed at least 1.5 million lives, primarily among the Romani people and Soviet prisoners of war. Number 3. Women who love being naked. You might find yourself crushing on the beauty of women from England, France, or Italy at first glance. However, German women are quite different from the rest. Their faces are less doll-like, with characteristic blue eyes and blonde hair. Their bodies are not slender in a traditionally alluring way but tend to be more athletic and toned. You may not find their beauty immediately striking, but in reality, they are highly regarded by experts for their elegance. This country may not have beauty queens, but it is famous for fashion supermodels like Claudia Schiffer and Diane Kruger. However, there is a fact that German women are among the most nudity-obsessed in the world, especially in East Germany. In the past, East Germany, under the influence of a socialist regime, had relatively strict control over its citizens. While West Germans could find a sense of freedom in travel and art, East Germans had fewer options. Nudity became a rare form of freedom that was not controlled by the government. As the economic situation in East Germany worsened, with clothing and essentials in short supply, they found more opportunities to bear it all. This led to the emergence of the term FKK, which refers to the freedom of the body. You can find many areas in Germany marked as FKK zones where everyone in that area will be nude. Of course, any photography or filming is strictly prohibited. They even created social media groups to go to FKK together, so why do I say they are addicted to nudity? In March 2023, a woman complained about a public swimming pool for forcing her to wear a top while swimming. She argued that it was extremely unfair since men were allowed to go shirtless while women were not. Ultimately, the Public Swimming Pool Authority in Berlin, Berliner Betriebe, had to concede and implement a new regulation allowing everyone to swim without wearing a top. However, if they do not display an FKK sign, remember to cover your lower half to avoid looking inappropriate. Germany is also a country with very open attitudes, having legalized prostitution. They even have a sexual assistance subsidy for people with disabilities to help them satisfy their needs. Women who want to work in this industry must submit an application and a health certificate to the authorities to be allowed to practice. However, in reality, many do not follow the regulations due to concerns about privacy violations. Government data shows that only about 41,000 women are active in the industry. But according to Gitnux, the actual number could range from 200,000 to 400,000 women. Don't be shocked, this estimate is still relatively low compared to the 1 million women reported by the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, NCOC, in the United States. So, do you agree that these women are indeed very unique and nudity enthusiastic? If so, leave a comment with the number 3. If not, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 4. Cultural shocks in Germany. If you are invited to a German home for dinner, you will notice a very unique phenomenon in their dishwashing habits. When washing dishes, they fill the sink with warm water, then add dish soap and wash directly in it. What's noteworthy is that after washing, the dishes are either placed on a drying rack or dried off immediately without being rinsed with clean water. This leads to the astonishing reality that the bowl you are about to eat from may still have soap bubbles clinging to it. However, don't worry too much. Their dish soap is said to have excellent antibacterial properties and is relatively safe. But don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting you drink the dish soap. In stark contrast to the relaxed atmosphere in the kitchen, Germans are extremely strict when it comes to the restroom. Here, men are expected to sit down to urinate, which is considered a cultural norm. They believe there is nothing more impolite than allowing urine to splash onto the toilet or the floor. As a result, some public restrooms even have signs prohibiting men from standing while doing their business. Young children are often taught the same principle, and society uses this as a standard to evaluate a gentleman. The structure of toilets in Germany can also surprise many people. Locals use a toilet with a flat shelf designed to help you observe your waist. It sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? However, according to designers, this design significantly reduces the chance of dirty water splashing back onto the seat. Additionally, observing this matter daily can help you assess your digestive health and easily spot any unusual signs like blood or parasites. If you plan to visit Germany, be careful with your right hand. Promise me you will never raise your right arm straight in front of you, with your hand extended, like their former head of state, especially in public. This is considered a criminal act not only in Germany, but also in Austria and Slovakia, with penalties of up to 3 years in prison. You might intend to travel to Germany, but spending 3 years there is certainly not what you're hoping for, right? However, I have some good news. Escaping from prison in Germany is not considered a criminal offense. The government views the pursuit of freedom as a natural human instinct. Therefore, if you escape without causing property damage or harming others, everything will be fine. But don't misunderstand, you will soon be caught again, just without any additional charges. Number 5. The Germans' crazy economic plan. After its defeat in World War I in 1918, Germany had to bear an incredibly heavy price. The victorious countries imposed harsh punitive terms on the nation, the most severe of which was the enormous war reparations. The total amount that Germany was required to pay reached approximately 269 billion gold marks. This figure is equivalent to nearly 100,000 tons of gold, about 12 times the total gold reserves of the United States at that time. This colossal reparations bill was intended to weaken Germany, both economically and in its ability to recover from the war. To meet these debts, instead of working hard, the German government continuously printed money to pay off the debts quickly. This action led to a horrific inflation crisis in 1923, which is considered one of the most catastrophic failures in German economic history. Pumping an enormous amount of money into the economy in a short period caused those with savings and fixed incomes to lose almost everything. Prices of goods skyrocketed at an alarming rate. At one point, a loaf of bread cost up to 428 billion marks, while a block of butter was sold for around 6 trillion marks. The currency had almost no practical value and was hardly worth more than scrap paper. Due to the failures in policy, subsequent governments were forced to adopt measures to extend the repayment of debts over several decades. If you were a German during this period, you would inherit a debt of up to $120,000 just by being born. The truth is that it wasn't until 2010, nearly a century later, that Germany officially completed the payment of all debts stemming from World War I. Understanding the pain of inflation, the Nazis devised a very sophisticated plan to shift it onto the British. During World War II, Hitler ordered the counterfeiting of 123 million British pounds, equivalent to $15.1 billion today. He intended to inject this money into the British economy, hoping that it would lead to hyperinflation and the collapse of the British economy. This plan nearly succeeded if not for a general under his command who squandered the vast sum on pleasures with women in the black market. Hitler's 3 years of meticulous planning thus became the most expensive joke of the 20th century. After this failure, Hitler attempted to counterfeit the US dollar, but he soon gave up as this challenge proved too difficult for German researchers at the time. Do you know of any inflation crises as severe as that in Germany? Feel free to share in the comments. Number 6. Germany and interesting facts. Do you believe that Germans once had a strong dislike for YouTube and were completely unaware of famous names like Taylor Swift, Beyoncé, or Adele? This situation stemmed from a long-standing copyright dispute between YouTube and the GEMA organization, which represents the rights of around 70,000 musicians and music publishers in Germany. GEMA argued that YouTube had uploaded and streamed music videos without the author's permission, thus violating copyright laws. The organization demanded that YouTube pay compensation, amounting to approximately 1.6 million euros. YouTube disagreed and blocked up to 60% of the 1,000 most popular music videos in Germany. Fortunately, in 2016, they reached a mutual agreement, and the situation came to an end. The soft drink Fanta, which many people consume daily, actually originated in Germany. This beverage was created during World War II when the Coca-Cola branch in Germany could not import ingredients from the US due to the embargo. To keep operations running, producers in Germany invented a new drink using available ingredients, which became the precursor to today's Fanta. The familiar name hamburger, known worldwide, also has its roots in Germany. This name comes from the city of Hamburg, where the minced meat sandwich became popular before spreading to the U.S. and becoming a global culinary icon. In the forests of Germany, wild boars still exist as descendants of individuals that were exposed to radiation from the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986. For this reason, since 2012, all wild boars hunted in Germany must undergo radiation-level testing before they can be consumed. The German passport is ranked among the most powerful in Europe and is third in the world, allowing its citizens to travel freely to about 192 countries and territories without needing a visa. Finally, Germany also leads the world in the number of circumcision surgeries performed for medical reasons. The rate is approximately 800 per 100,000 men, accounting for about 20% of all similar surgeries globally. Number 7. Humorous situations in German politics. The first and most recent situation to mention is Germany's reaction to the Greenland issue. After President Trump repeatedly expressed his desire to buy Greenland at any cost, Germany and 7 other European countries decided to send troops to ensure the security of this territory. The number of soldiers mobilized was a staggering 13, ranking second only to France's 15. This move prompted the Italian Minister of Defense to voice his confusion, suggesting it was the beginning of a joke. It became even more humorous when German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stated that the group was sent to scout Russian activities in Greenland and had nothing to do with the United States. When threatened with tariffs by President Trump, Germany and Norway were the first two countries to withdraw their troops from the area. If we turn back to 1982, German politics witnessed a government collapse over a beer. Indeed, a senior politician in Bavaria was forced to resign after being found using public funds to buy beer for constituents during campaign events. Of course, the amount of money involved was not significant, but the public at the time deemed the violation of public spending principles unacceptable. I'm not sure whether to call the Germans overly disciplined or just stingy. Do you think that's enough? Germany once had a political party that was created solely to criticize politicians. It is called Die Partei, where Partei means party in German, and Die is understood in English. If taken purely in German, its name simply translates to the party. Their campaign slogan is typically summed up in two sentences. Die Partei is very good, and we have no campaign content, but we are honest. Despite their seemingly meaningless actions, as of 2024, they still hold 2 seats in the European Parliament. Their breakthrough speech that led to this achievement was about the importance of speaking about importance. Surely, it was the humor and enthusiasm displayed over nearly 2 hours that led European leaders to decide to include them in the parliament. Finally, I assume your home has a washing machine? That is exactly the nickname locals have given to the Chancellor's office in Berlin. The reason for this nickname stems from the building's exterior architectural design, which has a square, white shape and details that immediately remind many of a large washing machine. Although it is the center of political power in Germany, this structure has a rather simple appearance, quite different from the historic government buildings commonly seen in many other countries. Number 8. The homeland of automobiles. Germany is the country that produced the world's first automobile. This first car was created in 1885 by Carl Benz, a German automotive engineer who also founded the globally renowned car manufacturer Mercedes. The automobile was patented and officially unveiled to the public on the 3rd of July 1886, making Germany a pioneer in the automotive production industry. The initial selling price of the car was around $150, equivalent to about $4,900 today. Interestingly, the first car he produced was dismissed by the public and ridiculed as a dangerous toy, deemed insufficient to replace horse-drawn carriages. Just take a look at the design of the world's first automobile, the Benz patent motor wagon. It looks quite similar to a bicycle, doesn't it? However, its speed couldn't compete with that of a bicycle, not to mention it was prone to frequent breakdowns, difficult to start, and particularly noisy, sounding like a lawnmower. However, in August 1888, Carl Benz's wife, Bertha Benz, undertook a test drive in this automobile, traveling a distance of 105 kilometers from Mannheim to Pforzheim. This historic journey demonstrated the practical value of the vehicle, and cars quickly became a substitute for traditional horse-drawn carriages, leading to a surge in orders. As of 2025, the automotive industry remains a crucial sector, contributing about 6% of Germany's GDP, equivalent to around $600 billion. To cater to the enjoyment of these automobiles, Germany also has a unique highway system known as the Autobahn. It is one of the few highways in the world that does not impose a maximum speed limit on many stretches. However, the lack of speed limits does not apply to the entire system. Sections that pass through urban areas, roads that do not meet safety standards, those under construction, or in testing phases, are subject to strict speed limits to ensure the safety of road users. One surprising fact is that in Germany, running out of fuel while driving on the Autobahn is considered a criminal offense. This is because such a situation is not regarded as an unavoidable accident, but rather a result of the driver's negligence, posing a danger to other vehicles traveling at high speeds. Number 9. The Kingdom of Beer. Germany is known as the land of beer, as German beer is famous worldwide for its long history and exceptional quality. It is home to over 1,300 breweries, producing more than 5,000 different types of beer, creating a rich and diverse beer heritage. A key factor contributing to the quality of German beer is the purity law enacted in 1516. This law stipulates that beer can only be made from 3 basic ingredients: water, barley, and hops. As a result, German beer contains no preservatives or unnatural additives, preserving its traditional flavor and characteristic purity for centuries. In addition to the quality of its beer, Germany is also renowned for the Oktoberfest, the largest beer festival in the world, held annually in Munich and attracting millions of visitors from all over. This festival began in 1810 to celebrate the wedding of Crown Prince Ludwig and Princess Therese. The name Oktoberfest comes from the fact that the festival usually takes place at the end of September and runs into early October each year. Over more than 2 centuries, Oktoberfest has become a major cultural event, combining beer, traditional cuisine, and vibrant entertainment activities. During the 16 to 18 days of the festival, participants can enjoy traditional beers brewed specifically for the event, along with many signature dishes such as sausages, pretzels, and roasted meats. Visitors also have the opportunity to take part in parades, listen to live music, and immerse themselves in the lively festival atmosphere. Oktoberfest is not only an occasion to enjoy beer and cuisine, but also an opportunity for the German people to proudly showcase their culture and traditions to international friends, while also contributing to local tourism and the economy. Today, although this festival has inspired many smaller versions in other countries, the Oktoberfest in Munich remains the largest and most famous, becoming a unique cultural symbol where the love for beer is expressed vibrantly and passionately. Number 10. Famous tourist destinations. Neuschwanstein is often referred to as the most famous castle in Germany, but it's worth noting that it's not a place for exploration inside. The reason is simple. The greatest value of Neuschwanstein lies in how you see it, rather than how many rooms you walk through. You cannot see the castle as soon as you arrive at the foot of the mountain. You must ascend, winding through forests and curves, before the entire structure gradually reveals itself. Once inside, the tour route is strictly limited, leaving no room for wandering freely. This indicates that Neuschwanstein was built to be an iconic image, something to be remembered visually, rather than a palace for everyday use. However, while Neuschwanstein is designed to be seen by everyone, Berlin is a city where many things go unnoticed. A detail that is easily overlooked is the strip of bricks running along the sidewalk, marking the location of the old Berlin Wall. There are no large explanatory signs, no designated tourist areas. If you're not informed beforehand, you might pass by as if it were just part of the road. Once you know, the experience changes instantly. You begin to realize how Berlin allows history to coexist with contemporary life. Not on display, not emphasized, but always present, if you pay attention. After a city that compels people to observe closely, the Black Forest poses a different question. Where do tourists go if there's no standout destination? The Black Forest lacks a central symbol representing the entire region. When you arrive, the first thing you must do is choose a path, rather than a specific attraction. Trails, small towns, and forests follow one another, with no clear endpoint. 2 people traveling at the same time, but choosing different directions will have completely different journeys. Therefore, the Black Forest is not suited for a checklist-style tourism. In contrast to the open space without a center, Cologne Cathedral is a completely different example. This structure is located right next to the central train station, the busiest and noisiest part of the city. Just a few dozen meters away, you find yourself in a different space. There are no signs to remind you, but most people instinctively lower their voices and slow down. The tall architecture, limited light, and echoing sounds immediately alter the behavior of those who enter. Cologne Cathedral demonstrates how architecture can directly influence human behavior without any verbal guidance. And if the previous locations discuss how people react to space, Zugspitze raises another question. Who can stand at this height? This is the highest peak in Germany, but it's not reserved solely for climbers. Thanks to the cable car system, visitors can reach great heights in a short time without complex preparations. Throughout the journey, the landscape and natural conditions change distinctly. Zugspitze illustrates how Germany opens up an experience that is typically hard to access for various audiences, while still retaining the significance of standing in a special place. Number 11. Mysterious places in Germany. Rügen Island is located in the northeast of Germany, on the Baltic Sea, and is often referred to as a resort destination. However, upon closer inspection, it reveals a space rich in layers of historical mystery and collective memory rather than just scenic beauty. On the island lies a nearly 4.5-kilometer-long concrete structure, built in the late 1930s during the Nazi regime, intended to become the largest resort in the world, accommodating tens of thousands of people simultaneously. This structure was almost complete in terms of construction, but was never put to its original intended use. After World War II, it was partially utilized by the Soviet Army and then East Germany, yet it has never been fully acknowledged in mainstream documentation. Notably, for decades, this area has been almost absent from official tourist maps, despite its undeniable size. Researchers refer to this as a prime example of architecture without memory, where history exists materially but is excluded from the broader narrative. Cologne Cathedral presents an entirely different kind of mystery, not in silence but in its prolonged existence. Construction began in 1248, but it was not officially completed until 1880. Throughout those more than 6 centuries, the cathedral was continuously left unfinished, interrupted by wars, economic crises, and political changes. Remarkably, even after being declared complete, Cologne Cathedral has remained in a state of restoration. There are always scaffolds, always repair work, as if this structure can never reach a final state. In local folklore, there exists a legend that if the cathedral were ever truly completed, a great order would collapse. Although lacking scientific merit, this legend reflects the reality that Cologne Cathedral has never been viewed as a static structure. Architectural historians point out that the Gothic design of the cathedral necessitates ongoing maintenance due to its height and complex structure, yet the historical coincidences that prolonged its construction remain a topic of debate. During World War II, the city of Cologne was heavily devastated, but the cathedral stood firm amidst the ruins, continuing to exist as a symbol of an unfinished work. When observing the cathedral today, what stands out is not its scale or intricacy, but the fact that it represents a process rather than a final result. Thus, Cologne is not just a cathedral, it is an example of how a structure can become a symbol through its endless prolongation. Number 12. Famous dishes. German cuisine is often characterized by clearly structured dishes, easily identifiable ingredients, and cooking methods that have remained stable over generations. When you mention German sausages, or bratwurst, you are referring to a dish that is found in nearly every region. The main ingredients are finely ground pork or beef, mixed with salt, pepper, and some dry spices like nutmeg. This mixture is stuffed into natural casings and then grilled or pan-fried. During the cooking process, the aroma of the meat and spices becomes pronounced, with a moderately salty, lightly fatty flavor that is not overpowering. Bratwurst is typically enjoyed with bread, mustard, or potatoes, serving as a neat main dish in a quick meal. Next is Schweinshax, or beer-braised pork knuckle, a dish that clearly showcases the slow cooking style of the Germans. The main ingredients are a whole pork knuckle, beer, garlic, onions, and various herbs. The meat is marinated beforehand and then braised in beer for an extended period to tenderize the meat inside. Near the end of cooking, the pork knuckle is roasted again to achieve a crispy skin. The aroma of the beer, combined with the fat and meat, creates a distinctive fragrance, while the meat inside is tender and flavorful. This dish is often served with sauerkraut and potatoes. Pumpernickel bread reflects the German habit of using grains. It is made from rye flour, water, and salt, with little yeast used. The dough is baked at a low temperature for a long time, resulting in a dark brown color and a dense texture. The grainy aroma is prominent, with a slight natural sweetness from the rye. This bread is commonly enjoyed with cheese, cold cuts, or as part of light meals. Finally, there is Apfelstrudel, a popular dessert. The ingredients include apples, flour, butter, cinnamon, and raisins. The dough is rolled very thin, and the spiced apple filling is rolled inside before baking. Once finished, the aroma of apples and cinnamon wafts through the air, with a crispy crust and a soft, sweet filling. Apfelstrudel is often served warm, sometimes accompanied by vanilla ice cream. These dishes provide a comprehensive view of how Germans select ingredients and handle flavors in their everyday cuisine. Number 13. Unique festivals that travelers should know about. The Cologne Carnival is one of the largest street events in Germany, taking place annually before Lent. The focus of the festival lies in using humor and satire to reflect social issues. As you observe the festival, you'll easily notice large parades featuring intricately designed floats, many of which carry political or social commentary. Participants dress up as a variety of characters, ranging from traditional figures to contemporary ones. Highlighted activities of the festival include the Rosenmontag Parade, candy distribution to the crowds, and public gatherings with music and dancing that continue for several days. While the Cologne Carnival represents the vibrant atmosphere of the streets, the German Christmas market showcases how Germans celebrate festivals in a more traditional community setting. Weihnachtsmarkt is not confined to a single location but appears in many cities, from large urban areas to small towns. You can observe how each market is arranged with wooden stalls, communal areas, and performance spaces. The main activities revolve around enjoying seasonal delicacies such as gingerbread, grilled sausages, and mulled wine, alongside choral performances, children's programs, and shopping for handcrafted items for the year-end festivities. In addition to folk and community festivals, Germany also hosts international cultural events, prominently featuring the Berlin International Film Festival. Berlinale is held annually and attracts filmmakers, journalists, and the public. During this festival, you will find film screenings occurring alongside workshops, press conferences, and thematic discussions. Notable activities include screenings of competing films, the awarding of the Golden Bear, and interactions between directors and audiences. Many selected films focus on global issues, reflecting a clear thematic direction of this film festival. Beyond modern events, Germany maintains numerous festivals tied to ancient folk beliefs. Walpurgisnacht, or Walpurgisnight, occurs on the night of April 30 and is popular in central and northern Germany. This festival is associated with the concept of seasonal transition in traditional culture. When exploring Walpurgisnacht, you will encounter symbolic rituals such as large bonfires, outdoor gatherings, and dressing up as folk characters. Highlighted activities include dancing around the fire, village festivals, and community events aimed at marking the end of winter and the beginning of a new cycle of life. Number 14. Living expenses. If you are considering long-term travel, studying abroad, or settling in Germany, understanding the cost of living is a crucial step in your preparation. As one of the largest economies in Europe, the standard of living in Germany is generally quite high, especially in major cities like Berlin, Munich, and Frankfurt. However, actual expenses largely depend on your location and personal lifestyle. In the central areas of major urban centers, the rent for a one-bedroom apartment typically ranges from about $900 to $1,200 per month. In areas farther from the center or in smaller cities, this figure can drop to around $600 to $800. This noticeable difference allows you to flexibly choose accommodation that fits your budget and personal living needs. Regarding transportation, Germany's public transport system is highly regarded for its convenience and punctuality. Subways, trams, buses, and light rail are all well connected. A single ticket usually costs between $2.50 and $3.50, while a monthly pass for regular commuters can range from $70 to $100, depending on the city. Additionally, bicycles are a very popular mode of transport, being both economical and environmentally friendly. If you need more flexibility in your travel, taxis and ride-hailing apps are available, but they can be quite expensive. A short ride within the city typically costs between $8 and $15. Renting a car for self-driving is also a common option, with prices around $35 to $50 per day, not including fuel and parking fees. Food costs in Germany show a clear difference between cooking at home and dining out. If you buy groceries at the supermarket and cook at home, your food budget can range from $180 to $250 per month. Meanwhile, a quick meal or casual dining at a local eatery usually costs between $6 and $10, while a meal at a mid-range restaurant can range from $12 to $20. Utility bills for electricity, water, heating, internet, and phone services also account for a significant portion of expenses. On average, utility bills for a small apartment typically amount to around $120 to $180 per month, while broadband internet usually costs between $30 and $40. Overall, to maintain a relatively comfortable lifestyle in Germany, a single person needs about $1,200 to $1,500 per month. With a frugal lifestyle, expenses can be reduced to nearly $1,000, while frequent dining out, traveling, and participating in recreational activities can easily push total spending beyond $1,800. Number 15. Tips for travelers. When traveling in Germany, you need to be particularly vigilant about pickpocketing and various forms of scams, such as fake donation solicitations, which often occur in crowded areas like central squares, major train stations, and popular tourist attractions in Berlin, Munich, or Cologne. Scammers often take advantage of moments when you are busy taking photos or using a map to approach you, so it's advisable to wear your bag in front of you, keep a tight grip on your personal belongings, and avoid signing anything or giving money to strangers on the street. On long-distance trains and local trains in Germany, incidents of luggage theft or impersonation of ticket inspectors can occur, especially during peak hours. You should purchase tickets from official vending machines or reputable apps. Always keep your ticket with you, and do not hand it over to anyone claiming to be an inspector unless they are clearly in uniform. While on the train, keep your luggage within sight, and avoid sleeping deeply in less crowded compartments. For health safety, it is advisable to purchase travel insurance before arriving in Germany, as medical costs can be quite high. In case of an emergency, the national emergency number is 112, and public hospitals are always ready to accept patients. Pharmacies in Germany, known as Apotheke, have a red A sign, but many shops close on Sundays, so you should prepare any necessary personal medications in advance. The beer culture and participation in festivals are distinctive features of Germany, but you need to pay attention to safety when attending large events like the beer festival in Munich. Crowding and excessive drinking can easily lead to a loss of control and make you a target for thieves. Some cities prohibit bringing glass bottles into public areas at night, so you should adhere to local regulations to avoid trouble. Finally, although Germany is a modern country, cash is still widely used, which creates opportunities for scams at ATMs. You should prioritize withdrawing cash from machines located at major banks and avoid using those in secluded areas. When making payments, cover the keypad while entering your PIN and carefully check your receipt to ensure financial safety throughout your trip. And those are 15 interesting facts about Germany. We hope these facts have provided you with a fresh perspective on this fascinating country. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming journeys. Which fact impressed you the most? Please leave a comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts. The information is for reference only, so please do your own research before making any decisions.